male perspective, not being able to have your bloodline pass on, it was hard to accept.
There's no way that I can be a foster parent. Every time anyone said that to me, I was like, I rebuke that. That road went on for 8 years. And Steve looked at me and said, you know, we're being called to foster care. Like my whole spirit just went, I know. They said, we're so sorry, we're praying for you. And I said, please don't. I'm so mad at God right now. Don't even pray for me. Don't even talk about God to me. I'm so mad. We get this phone call and she says, I hope you're sitting down. And I say, okay, well, I am now. And she says, there's a little boy and he's legally free for adoption. And I just melted. And she said, do you want to know his name? And I said, yeah. And she said, his name is...
Having kids, we know the strain that it can put on marriage. Did you guys experience that?
If you're a parent that's ever struggled with infertility, looking to have kids, and it's been a long, arduous road, or you've had church hurt, this conversation's for you.
Welcome to the Our House podcast. I'm Malia, and this is my husband, Jason. We've been married almost 16 years, have 4 boys aged 14, 12, 9, and 5. And on this podcast, we just help families to bring God to the center of their home. Looking forward to getting into this conversation. And if you're new here, if you like, comment, and subscribe on our channel, we would greatly appreciate that. And if you've been listening for a while, we'd also appreciate that.
Well, we are super excited to welcome Desi and Steve Albert. They're great friends of ours. We met them at church at City Light, and we're just blessed to have you guys in our lives. Desi is a businesswoman and mother, and Steve is an entrepreneur and father, and he's the host of a Whatnot channel, and we can talk a little bit about that, but it's fire. But that's not really the point of this podcast. I just want to give you a quick plug right from the beginning.
Yeah.
But really, we are super interested to share your testimony with our audience. We think your story is just incredibly encouraging and inspiring, and your faith journey has been, I think, pretty unique and interesting, and we'd love to just get into all of that and really kind of starting with your journey into parenthood and how that came to be.
Yeah, and as Christian parents, you know, I think the statistics are that 1 in 5 couples struggles with infertility, which is pretty high when you really think about it. And so I just think that it would be so interesting and helpful for couples that maybe are struggling with their infertility or have in the past or may in the future to just kind of give us your story and your testimony of how God's blessed you with 2 amazing children. And yeah.
Well, thank you guys so much for having us. It's really an honor to be here and to be sharing our story with you guys, and to be sharing it on your podcast.
Yeah.
We're so proud of you both. Okay, where do we start? I think we have to start with a little bit with our testimony first, and that's that I grew up in church. My grandfather's a pastor, so I always grew up knowing of God, but I think as most teenagers and young adults, I wasn't actively pursuing a relationship with God. Mm-hmm. I think people would be surprised to learn that my testimony actually involves Disney World. And that's that my grandma was a greeter at Disney World for a long time. Oh, wow. That was her job. So cool. Yeah, and she used to tell me that she would share the gospel at Disney World, and I'm like, Grandma, how does that go? People are like, which way's the Matterhorn? And you're like, do you know Jesus? And she was like, yeah, straight up, yeah. So when my grandmother passed away in 2017?
No, a little later.
Earlier. Maybe. Anyway, no, yeah, way earlier. Anyway, 2015-ish. We
were still in Jersey.
Yeah, we went to her funeral service, and a actual bus load of Disney employees showed up, and they gave their testimony at my grandma's service, and I'm sitting in the front row as her granddaughter, and I'm like, I can't even say that. And at the time, we were dating and living together. Yep. And so we flew home to New Jersey from my grandma's service, and I looked at Steve and I said, I have to get back involved in church. Mm-hmm. I have to rededicate my life to God. And I didn't know what that meant for our relationship because we had never talked about it. I didn't know where he stood.
And where were you guys at in your relationship at this point?
We were boyfriend and girlfriend and living together. Yeah.
For years or at that point?
Well... No. We fast tracked.
Yeah, okay.
The beginning of your relationship.
It was the beginning of our relationship. So after that, I started looking for churches and found Hillsong, New York City. Went on a Sunday, asked Steve if he'd go with me. I was surprised that he agreed. And the first Sunday, he was hands up, like all in. And that's really where our testimony starts.
And so that is sometimes surprising to people. You go to church and first time your hands up. Tell me about what that was like for you.
Well, I grew up in a Christian church,
Catholic
church.
And just like I was there, I go there because my mom made me to go and did the whole
Catechism,
routine. Did
Yeah.
everything. Then got away from it. Went the holidays and whenever my mom asked me to go.
Yeah.
And then, but really, I understand who God was.
Yeah.
But I didn't know, didn't have a relationship with him.
Yeah.
And we were there at Hillsong, and they put a life story with a biblical story.
Yeah.
And it made sense. It clicked.
Resonates.
And then just the worship music too was just something I've never heard, been involved with, and it just felt great. Worship for me is my jam. I love going to church just for worship, and I feel like God speaks to me through the music. And it was just I connected with the message, and at that point I was like, all right, I'm all in.
Here I am.
Yeah.
Yeah. So at that point, that was kind of your home church, then I would assume.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a cool experience because we had New Jersey one weekend, and then I worked in New York at the time. So on the opposite weekends that I had to work on a weekend, she'd come to New York and we would do Hillsong in Times Square.
Oh, wow.
So it was looking back, it was pretty cool, but when you're in it, you don't really realize it. And then, because there's a line outside, and literally there's a Spider-Man.
In Times
all
Square.
these crazy things going on, and people walking by, what are you guys waiting for? And the line would be literally around the New York City block. And
Oh, so the church was directly in Times Square.
Yeah.
Wow. That's pretty cool.
So then take us through how, that starting point then brought you through, you being married and your parenting journey.
We went through a really tough season right after we rededicated our life to Christ, and we knew that we needed to get married. We wanted to make that covenant with each other and with God. And right before our wedding, we had a situation where our relationship really blew up in a really big dramatic way.
Yeah.
And I knew at that moment that we could not stay in New York and that I needed to get back west. And so I went to my employer and said I needed to be back on the West Coast. And so we relocated to Vegas, and we told the pastors that we were leaving because we were moving. And they said, we have a church out there in mind for you that we know that's plugged into our network, but we want you guys to go and find a church for yourself. And if you don't find one, then call us back. So it was
Goldilocks?
Yeah, Goldilocks. We went to one church too big, one church too small. And then we found a church that we really thought was going to be our church home. And we called our pastors that night and said, hey, this is the church that we're thinking of. And they said, that's the exact church that we were going to send you to. So we got plugged in at church pretty quickly when we moved here. We knew that we needed to have that foundation. And then we got involved in a small group. And actually our small group leaders from that very first church were Amanda and Omar. And they had us over for dinner one night, and they were like, what are you guys doing? You need to get married. Yeah. So we planned our wedding pretty quickly after that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What brought you to Vegas? What was here in Vegas that, did you have family here?
No. I lived in Vegas by myself for work before I moved to New York, and I liked Vegas. California's home.
Yeah.
But so I just wanted to be back on the West Coast, and I knew Vegas was close enough.
Yeah.
So, and then Steve had never lived anywhere but New Jersey, and so that was a
Never
big
even been to
culture
Vegas.
shock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he trusted me, and we really felt like God was calling us here, and we felt good about it, even though, and I don't want to share your testimony, but part of Steve's testimony includes addiction and gambling, and so people thought I was crazy for moving him to Vegas. But I just knew that God had something for us here, and that it was going to be okay.
Yeah.
And it was.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your side of that journey up until that point.
Well, yeah, I was just wanted to follow her wherever she wanted to go. From my perspective, I was literally, for my career, we'll call it, is I was running the number one store in the company in New York City, 34th Street, on paper, why would you want to leave? The next step would be district level, but for where I was at in my career, I was like, why would I want to leave? And I was just I didn't care. She wanted to come out here, and she thought, at that point, she was a leader, and I wanted to say like, yeah, I'm gonna trust you, and let's do this together. And didn't even think twice. You know, we flew out here, looked at a couple apartments, signed a lease, and flew back. Packed our stuff. 2 weeks later, we're here, and I was ready for the journey. You know, excited for it.
And so you guys get married, and do you guys want to jump into parenthood right away? Was that the vision?
We met, I was like 28, and I don't know why. In my young 28-year-old brain, I knew my mom had me at 29, and for some reason I felt like that was old, and I was like, I want to be a younger mom. And so I, basically when we first started dating even, I was like, I'm looking for a husband and a baby daddy. Like, I'm not dating. Yeah. And so, I mean, that was probably one of our very first conversations. I was like, I'm not dating like for fun. You know, And so, right when we got to Vegas and got settled and got married, I was like, you know, I want to start having kids right away.
Yeah.
And so that's where our trying to conceive journey began. That road went on for 8 years. And long story short, I had some medical issues that were going to prevent me from getting pregnant. And it was our wedding anniversary in 2020.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were in Summerlin.
Yeah, we went to dinner at a restaurant in Summerlin, and we sat down at the restaurant, and we were celebrating our, I think, 5th year anniversary.
Yeah, and I don't think I was working either, I remember.
Oh, because of COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you had that really cute puffy dress on.
Yeah. And Steve looked at me at the dinner and said, you know, we're being called to foster care. And like my whole spirit just went, I know. It was something I felt like I'd been fighting. People had suggested it along our like trying to conceive journey, but I was like, you're my really good friend. You know this about me. I'm the most sensitive person you'll ever meet, and I was just like, there's no way that I can be a foster parent. You know, like there's no way I'm going to be able to love these babies and be attached to them, and then
potentially have them
give them back. And I just felt like every time anyone said that to me, I was like, I rebuke that. Like, I rebuke that calling. But then when Steve said it at this dinner, there was something about that moment that I was just like, I can't fight this anymore. And I did feel it. I was just really trying to ignore that feeling. But so the next day we signed up to be foster parents.
And I know I've had this conversation with you before. You never had a feeling that God was calling you to IVF. And can you share a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have anything against it. I think it's everyone's journey and their decision. And I have a lot of friends that have been very blessed through that journey. It never felt like it was the path for me.
Yeah.
I never felt called to that. I never felt like that was something that I wanted to explore. I was always open to adoption. My mom, I think I get that from her, but she is just like the most amazing mother, and she mothers so well. She, you know, if there's a friend that needed a parent, my mom was like, you're mine now.
Yeah.
So I think that like I felt that like really heavy on my heart, like from a very early age, that like I could love anyone the same and it didn't have to be biological.
Yeah.
Before we jump into the foster care journey, I mean, 8 years, that's a long season.
Yeah.
And I think if you're willing to be vulnerable and share what that was like, and I think for our audience that, you know, maybe going through the similar struggles, can you talk a little bit about what that journey was like in terms of your relationship with God and how he moved in your life and how you leaned on him? And
but also I'm sure there was struggles of,
exactly.
you know, where are you, God, in this?
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I think, you know, in the beginning started out easy because I was just like, oh, it'll happen for us. Like
I'm young.
I know we're
We
meant
got
to be parents.
apps and you know, all that stuff.
Tracking.
Yeah, tracking.
I then, you know, as time started to go on, I started to get a little bit more nervous,
Anxious,
I guess.
yeah.
Anxious. And then, you know, started seeking medical assistance to figure out what was going on. And then it was a long journey of getting diagnosed with endometriosis and then had surgery to try to help, you know, remove some cysts, make some room. And then even after the first surgery, they told us, like, your chances of getting pregnant now are really good because, you know, your uterus is cleared out and, you know, your chances of getting pregnant will be a lot better. And so then that was like a whole nother disappointment of like, then it didn't happen again. And then I always felt God in like, I always felt God's presence with me the whole time. I never like wavered on that. I mean, it didn't make some of the moments easy. Like, you know, every month getting your period's a little painful.
Or seeing your friends get pregnant.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah.
There was a season where I couldn't even look at Instagram. And it felt like, you know, when it rained, it poured. It was like if one person was pregnant, everybody was pregnant at the same time. And there was feelings of like, why not me? When is it going to be my turn? But I really did always feel like a piece of God about it. And I remember going to the last doctor's appointment. It was in early 2020 because I remember having a mask on and you couldn't go with me because of COVID restrictions, whatever. But where the doctor actually looked at me and was looking at some results that I had just gotten and said, it's just not in the cards for you. And I feel like that should have been painful. But I actually felt relieved. Like, it felt better just to know that it wasn't going to happen for me. So then we could move on and we could pick, like,
pursue
other, you know, journeys to parenthood. So I remember actually feeling relief in that moment. And I processed a lot through walks. So I had to go for a walk and talk to God about it, you know, and I actually remember coming home and having like a piece about it. And then it was probably very shortly after that we were celebrating our anniversary. And Steve was like, we're being called to foster care.
I mean, when you said that, like, had you guys had friends that were in foster care, or was that really just a word from God?
Yeah, it just came.
Well, yeah, it was through small groups. I think, you know, every small group we were ever in, we talked about our trying to conceive journey, you know.
Pray for us.
For us. Yeah. I mean, my girlfriends laid hands on me, like, you know, so it wasn't anything that we were like hiding. And so people would always like, you know, give their suggestions. Yeah. And again, if someone said foster care to me, I was like, I rebuke that. That's not for me. Like, I'm too sensitive. I can't handle it. And so, I think that there was little seeds planted along the way.
And then when did you feel like you received that word, and what was that like for you?
Honestly, like, I think our whole relationship has been like, I'm just following her, you know, in that, but I wanted to have a child, you know, like, and, you know, from a male perspective, like, not being able to have your bloodline pass on, you know, it was hard to accept. And, you know, I could either have fought it or just went along and just accepted that this is how God wrote our story. And the second I realized, like, I can't fight it, so let's just embrace the season we're in. Like, that's when it became exciting for me. And to know, like, it might not be my bloodline, but like, they're
your children.
Yeah, they're going to be our children. So, it was more accepting is easier for me than
fighting it. Yeah. So you guys had that celebration, that anniversary celebration, and you said the next day
Very next day.
Yeah. And what was that process like? Like, did you feel like the doors were opening? Did you meet people? Like, what?
Yeah.
It was an interesting experience.
Well, we were the first round of families to go through the foster care class virtually. Because
of COVID.
So I feel like, you know, they were kind of learning how to, you know,
navigate that.
Virtually too. So, I mean, that in itself was interesting, but I think it was drawn out longer too, because like they only met on like Saturday
morning.
So you really didn't meet anybody because it was all virtually. Like, did you have any contacts in your church that had, you know, no, you guys were kind of doing it on your own.
This is like our life. Like, we just, we've come together and like, we do everything by ourselves, you know, like even out here, we're parenting by ourselves, like, in a sense.
No,
we don't have any family out here.
We did meet one couple through the virtual class. Like, I don't know, it was just like one of those things where you're like looking at somebody on your screen and you're like, yeah, those are our people. And so we did make friends with them and are still friends with them to this day.
Oh, nice.
And they also go to City Light. They're amazing.
That's awesome.
And so that did help.
Yeah.
We felt like a little bit less alone, but that wasn't towards like the end of the process.
Yeah.
And I feel like, that's like the one piece of advice I would give to somebody who was thinking about starting the foster care journey is to find community.
Yeah.
Well, and I feel like in Las Vegas, there are many organizations that really, like the Hub and, you know, that will walk alongside you, you know, because as Christians,
Yeah.
we're called to, support those kind of missions. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
So once you got your license, how long was it between that and your first placement? Like, did you guys have in your mind, like, because I know you can tell them, like, we're only looking for a baby, or we're only looking for a boy, or we're only looking for a girl, or a sibling set, like what?
We were licensed for one kid, and our age was 0 to 3.
Yeah,
I
it was
think,
a big
at
gap.
first.
A big gap. We didn't know, like,
Yeah.
you can't have the same stuff.
And a 3-year-old.
Yeah.
Completely
Different.
Yeah. I mean, we weren't parents yet, so we didn't
naive.
realize. Then once we learned that, we edited it down.
Narrowed it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To 0 to 1.
Okay.
Yeah. And it was one weekend, just how long it took. We got our license, and the very next weekend we got our first phone call.
Yeah, weren't we in?
We were in California.
We were in California at your sister's wedding.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's such a need for, I don't know what the numbers are, but
Yeah.
it's thousands of kids, I
Yeah.
believe,
Yes.
that are waiting for placement.
Yeah.
So from that first phone call, what does the process look like from there? It's just like, here you go.
Bring you the child.
Yeah.
and-
Yeah, literally. Well, that one we almost left California to go get I think it was a girl, a little girl, but it just didn't work out. But yeah, I think the process they call you like, hey, this child is needs we connect them with you, so you go and meet with them or her. So yeah, you just go and pick them up and
Yeah.
bring them home.
That's it.
And then
Yeah.
they, basically like that's, here you go.
Yeah.
Like, you have to learn just like new parents to
Yeah.
biological kids.
Yeah, we picked up our very first placement from the hospital when he was 3 days old.
Wow.
And the nurse was like, "Are you a mom? Do you know how to change a diaper?" I was like,
No, I mean,
Wow.
"Yeah." She was like, "Okay, quick lesson."
yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. I mean, and, having biological kids ourselves, we know the strain that it can put on marriage. Like,
Yeah.
did you guys experience that?
Oh yeah, I think it's really tested our marriage
Yeah.
quite a bit. And I think the one thing that we have learned is that we have to remind ourselves, even out loud,
Yeah.
often we say, like, we're on the same team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it, depending on, what's happening, it's like, at that time, it was like, the system is the problem,
Yeah.
not us.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
let's just remember that we're on the same team, and we have to, like, bring ourselves back to that.
Yeah.
I mean, we have that same exact motto. That's some of the
Yeah.
advice I give to new parents is like, when you're in the thick of it,
Yeah.
sleep deprived, like you're not your best self, like reminding each other like, hey, we're in this together. Like we love
Yeah.
each other. We love this kid. Like
Yeah.
we're on the same team because
Yeah.
it can get very, very stressful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in that part of our parenting journey, we didn't have God at the center of our
Yeah.
home, and
We were
on
now I realize like,
spiritual journeys.
boy, the enemy loves to divide. And,
Oh, yeah.
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 But that was not even.
Well, the enemy
remotely-
just doesn't like a family unit to
Yeah.
begin with.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
you really
Yeah.
feel that when you're going through the foster care system because like you had mentioned, God asks us as a church body to show up for these kids,
Yeah.
and so when you do that, the enemy will meet you
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
And so we experienced that
Yeah.
quite a bit in our
Yeah.
Well,
5 years. of
I'm
being a
also
foster
just
care.
sure, like, sowing doubt, like, are we really meant to do this?
Oh,
like, like,
all
There
of the
was a
things.
lot of times where we're just like,
what are we doing?
give up. Yeah, like I feel like the system is. I don't know, or it felt like it was against us.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
the goal is reunification,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
That's the foster care's
Yeah.
goal. So you going into it thinking like, how am I going to love these babies and then have to give them back and never have contact with them again? Like that alone will set you up for doubting, like,
Yeah.
is this for me?
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that experience and what that was like, being put in a position where you love this child and
Because you guys have had to
Reunify.
Yeah.
Yeah. I learned about both and that they can live simultaneously. And I think, and maybe it sounds naive of me, but prior to being a foster parent, I didn't think that both those feelings could exist at the same place at the same time. So I can be rooting for reunification and be heartbroken that I'm not going to have contact with this kid again,
Yeah.
and both those things are true and they both exist at the same time. So I think that really gave me permission to like be in my feels and go through the experience and accept the both and. I didn't know that I can, be heartbroken and be excited for a
Joyful.
family at the same time prior to being a foster parent.
Yeah, experiencing joy and grief simultaneously, I
Yes.
believe happens
Yeah.
a lot
Yeah.
in life, and being okay with feeling those two feelings simultaneously.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's a very freeing experience to
Absolutely.
be able to experience both of those and
Yeah.
not not feel guilty about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because ultimately, if you are fostering a child whose parents are not capable at that time, and then through the process they become capable of being parents, that's ultimately what we would want. As much as it hurts us, we want them to be with their biological parents if they're fit to be parents.
I think the class did help manage my expectations a little bit. I think that when we were, obviously had no context going into the foster care system when we made that decision that night. But so I think we would have told you our goal was adoption on that very first day. But then going through the class, we learned that the goal is reunification, and we really needed to be on board with that. Yeah. And so we really were. I feel like our expectation was set during the program.
Yeah.
And also, I think for you guys, knowing that whatever children you were going to be blessed with, the time that, whether that was forever or for a couple months, you still had the opportunity to sow God's love into their lives, and that has ripple effects for the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can actually give you a couple examples of that. The first foster placement we had, I remember pleading with God, the chances of this first, placement, being our forever baby, was probably slim to none. So I was like, God, if this is not meant to be, please make the reunification happen, as quickly as possible, protect my heart.
Yeah.
Within 6 months is what I was pleading for. So 3 months into the case, we log on to a standard court hearing where they're just going to give an update on where the case is at. And a couple pops up in the screen. Again, it's all virtual COVID times. And we're like, who's this couple? And they announce them as the aunt and the uncle who are wanting to take placement. And one of the broken, parts of the system is communication. No one had warned us that was happening, that they had found anyone so it was just kind of a shock to log in and see these strangers on the screen. And then, we found out that they were from a different state. They were from North Carolina, and that they were going to begin the transfer process. It's called an ICPC. And that the transfer process could take anywhere from 6 months to a year.
Wow.
And I said, how, God, am I going to be able to, love this baby and continue the attachment that they deserve and know that I'm going to have to at some point, it just felt impossible.
Yeah.
Well, that court hearing was on a Thursday. And then Friday, we got a call from the caseworker saying that the family's home had already been approved by the state of North Carolina because they were military. They didn't have to go through background checks. Their home was their home study was approved.
They had kids already, so.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so they were set up.
Fast tracked.
Yeah. So literally that Monday, so 3 days later, only God, because they told us 6 months to a year, and it happened in 3 days.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they called us and said, the transfer's been approved. And they were like, I'm off tomorrow, so a random caseworker will just come to your house, pick them up, and we'll fly them to North Carolina. And I thought, that sounds crazy.
Yeah.
So I'm like, you're not going to fly my baby across the country to some strangers, with a stranger, So I asked if I could fly him. And they said, we have to ask the judge. No one's ever asked us that before.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's never been a thought.
Yeah. So then they got back to us and said, we were going to pay for the caseworker's flight anyway, right? So we'll pay for your flight. And then we paid for Steve's flight out of our pocket because we were like, he didn't want me to do that alone. Yeah. So we flew him to North Carolina and handed him over to this family at baggage claim.
Wow.
It's wild. Yeah. But they were amazing, and that was absolutely a God thing. But to me, that was such an example of just God's grace over the whole situation, because I pleaded for it to happen in the first 6 months of this baby's life, because I wanted him to have the best attachment with his family, and I wanted what was best for me selfishly at the time too. And so, when it all happened so fast, I'm like, there's no other explanation than God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you entered the foster program, you said, with initially the end goal of adoption.
Sure.
And then the training process kind of adjusted your expectations. But I'm sure still adoption lingered in your heart.
Oh, yeah. And, well, we just knew, we felt like God had told us that our family was in the system. When, where, how, who. We didn't know any of that, but we knew that at some point there was going to be a need where there was a child that family, wasn't able
Couldn't
to
reunify.
right,
Yeah.
and we were going to be there for that kid.
And there were some times where we were like asked a lot of questions when we got a call. We're like,
Oh yeah,
we would try to control it a little bit and say like
set boundaries.
Yeah.
Try to maybe I don't say accept this child and not that child, but like we would ask questions, and then over the time we found out that they would tell us what they wanted to tell us.
Yeah.
Because they wanted you to
because they wanted to take
place.
yeah.
It's just, it's heavy. Like, it's, I can empathize with you guys on a certain extent, but also I can't. Like, we have no experience of that. We have really good friends that are very active in the foster world, but when they started becoming foster parents, there wasn't an intention to adopt. They were just like, we feel like God's going to give us these kids, and and then they did end up, felt like God was calling them to adopt. So I can, but like, we've never experienced that. So it's, what faith to, like, I can only imagine that it strengthened your faith through every step of the process. So tell us a little bit about your kids that you have now, and each one of them, their stories, like, because you have two amazing children now that you have legally adopted, that there is no, quote unquote threat of them being taken away from you. But
we took a little break after the first placement, just to kind of regroup and, get situated again, I guess. And the next call that we got was for Audrey. And again, like, God really showed up in her story too, because there was a moment in Audrey's case, I don't know, about 9 months in.
Something like that,
Yeah, where we had already met the biological families, and we already had a pretty good understanding that the safest thing for Audrey was adoption. We were kind of settling into that idea, trying not to get our hopes up too much, doing what was best for her, trusting the process. But I mean, it was pretty evident. And then we felt like we went into this one particular hearing so faith-filled. I mean, it happened on a Monday morning, and the Sunday before, we had our whole small group lay hands on her, pray over the court case. So we felt really,
confident.
confident.
God's will was going to be done.
Absolutely, And it was just, one of the very few moments in my life where, like, I was so certain. I just knew that God was going to show up in that courtroom and protect our baby girl. And it did not go that way. And that was absolutely shattering to me. I remember specifically texting some friends after the court hearing, and they said, "We're so sorry, we're praying for you." And I said, "Please don't. I'm so mad at God right now. Don't even pray for me. Don't even talk about God to me. I'm so mad." And I sat in that feeling all day. I really questioned. My whole life just flashed before my eyes of like, what do I even believe? Because I had never been more confident than walking into that moment. And so when it didn't happen the way that I thought,
envisioned,
I just felt like then everything is fake. I don't believe in anything then. And it was a really hard day.
For both.
And then at 8:00 that night, we got a text message from the caseworker that said, regardless of what happened in court today, Audrey will be with you.
Disregard everything that happened.
Wow.
And I thought, God was with me the whole time. I was just the only example I could think of is just like that, like, angry teenager when you're like, I hate your mom. But you don't really hate your mom. Like, that's how and I was just like, honestly embarrassed. I felt embarrassed in front of God that that's how I, responded. And I should have known, and I should have trusted that he did have it the whole time. And so one of my friends that I was communicating with throughout this day reminded me that God is a good father, and he can handle even our anger and our frustration and our disappointment. And if we're mad even at him, if we bring that to him, he can take it.
And he knows it already, right? Like, I think remembering that, and you guys have younger kids, but I think about the relationship that we have with our children and relating that to our the relationship that we have with our father. Like, when our kids are angry at us or they're mad at us, it could be for something silly, but we would never want them to not be honest with us about their feelings. And so, like, when you think about it like that, like, God knows that we wrestle with our faith. Like he knows that. That's a very common thing as Christians. Like we can't just act like everything's good and jolly and like push all of that down, because it's only going to bubble up later on. And, you know, so I think, like you said, like he is a good father, and he wants us to come to him with all of those feelings, regardless of if they're happy or joyful. Like he knows it already. So like having that conversation with God, like, you know, nobody will fault you for saying like, I'm so angry at God, you know, like we've all experienced that, and being honest about it and vulnerable with him, like he knows already. So, you know, just that line of communication, again, like we have teenagers, and like, they are having teenager feelings. Like, I hate you, you know, but like, even if they don't tell us, they still have those feelings. And so like, we want them to have that relationship with us, just like God wants us to have that relationship with him.
Yeah. That moment really helped me like fully trust God, because I was just like, you've got this forevermore. I will trust you because, you know. Yeah. And I should have trusted all along. And you know what I mean? Because it ultimately worked out. And when you're in the foster care system, they tell you that it's 12 months that they give before the judge is supposed to make a decision on the permanency of the child. Well, we ended up 3.5 years in with Audrey's case before,
I didn't realize that.
before it finally moved that direction.
That is a long time.
Yeah, but there were so many reminders that God was with us throughout the journey that just like really helped, I think, like, you know, get us through like one step at a time, right?
Gosh, I think about, you know, the contrast of what it must be like compared to having your own kids and being able to have, you know, a fair amount of vision and looking forward and knowing that you know, my kid's going to turn 18 and they're going to go off to wherever they go, and you know, maybe they'll get married someday, but to be in the foster program and just not know
the future.
You know, the future, you know, months from now at all, it must really have to lean on God.
You don't even know what tomorrow looks like.
Take your child away from you.
Literally. I remember, you know, I got a therapist really early on because, again, I didn't think I was capable of this. And so my therapist also was a blessing because she also was a foster parent and a Christian. So she was a godsend. But I remember her telling me to treat our classes and our whole experience of getting licensed as if it was like my pregnancy, right? And then when we, you know, got a placement and we had a baby in our home, like things almost started to feel normal again. But then I would lay in bed and think like, but all my other friends that have babies aren't worried that there's going to be a knock on the door right now and someone's going to come, you know, tell them that they're taking their baby, and I have to live with that every single day. So that was hard. And I feel like God used me because of how sensitive I am. I think he knew that the foster care system, the families that we worked with needed my sensitivity, and also to show that I really believe this, that if I can do it, anyone can do it. Because I really shouldn't have been able to do it because I am so sensitive. But, you know, I feel like God used me so that way when someone says, oh, I think I'm too sensitive, I can say, yeah.
Can you guys speak a little bit to, you know, I'm sure one of the fundamental fears that people have that are getting into the foster care system that maybe have biological kids of their own or maybe they don't. And there is that fear of like, am I going to love a child that is not biologically mine the same way that I would love my, you know, I mean, I know you don't have biological children to compare that to, but, you know, walking into it, like, am I really going to love somebody else's baby the way that I would feel like I would love my biological children? Because I'm sure, you know, people have reservations about that.
Yeah, I feel like if you are feeling that, then you probably needed to lean into that nudge a little bit, because that probably means you're more equipped than you think, because that's what we hear the most is, I'm afraid to get attached. Well, these kids deserve our attachment. And so I do feel like maybe you have a little bit of that anxiety leading up to receiving that placement, but the second you hold that baby, there's no question you love them. And you don't even think about, I have a little bit of a funny story about that. Just that our kids are not the same races as us.
Yeah.
And my mom is so amazing because, again, she's just like the mother of all, and she just loves so well. I think she oftentimes forgets
That they're not yours.
Right.
Yeah.
And so,
Biologically,
we
they
were
are yours.
in line at Starbucks, and someone made a comment to her about Jericho not being the same race as her, and it went right over her head. She didn't even get it because
She
you
doesn't see
don't
that.
think about it. Yeah. I had to be like, Mom, Mom. She was questioning you because he doesn't look like you.
Yeah. That's so.
Gosh, that's so interesting how, you think about kind of protecting your emotions. And I think like if I were to do foster care, like it would be hard for me to think about that attachment. And you're absolutely right. Like that's exactly what you want for the baby. And
especially those first 3 years.
Yeah. And if you're able to guard your emotions and separate yourself and not be empathetic and put up that wall,
terrible.
like, that's exactly the opposite of what
These kids need.
the family. And
you got to we have to be all in.
Oh yeah. You have to be all in.
I feel like, God chose this path for us because he knew that we could handle this.
Looking at you guys and realizing what kind of, family you have and what your home is like, my goodness, like we need more of that in the foster care system. Like, because there are bad foster people that are fostering with
bad
malintentions. And,
Absolutely.
so like to look at you guys and see like what a blessing you were to every child that you had in your, in your home, whether or not they ended up staying with you or not, like that will transform those children's lives in ways that you won't even know.
Well, I know you guys aren't looking for pats on the back for what you've been through and what you've gone through, but I commend you guys. Like it takes a special human being to do what you guys have done and, receive the blessings. And so that
and we love your kids and like, we don't look at them
awesome.
as not your children. They are your children.
Yeah. Jericho, I think was, I don't know if this is like, politically correct or not, but like almost like a reward. You know what I mean? It was like we'd gone through so much crap with the foster care system over like a 4-year period that one day I got a random phone call from an old caseworker that wasn't
Were you
involved
in the
our
foster
case.
care system at that point still?
Yeah, we were. Yeah, we were.
No, our case was closed.
No, it wasn't.
No,
No, our license was closed.
We weren't accepting any new
Got it.
placements.
Yeah.
But we were still finalizing with Audrey. It wasn't, our adoption was not finalized with her. We were still very much in the thick of it.
Yeah.
But we weren't accepting any more placements. I was probably more ready and open for another child. Steve was like, not.
Yeah.
And so I'm working from home one day. I get this call from the caseworker, and it's an old caseworker, but I had a good relationship with her. And I'm just like, I just like have this like dooms mentality. I'm good for me, But,
Worst case scenario.
Yeah, always, especially in the system. And we had been through
preparing
so much.
for the
I
worst.
felt like every phone call was that. So I see the number ringing on my phone, and I'm just like, my mind starts racing, and I go, they know I have a good relationship with her, and they're going to make her call me and give me bad news. And so I answer, and I'm just kind of like, what? And she goes, I hope you're sitting down. And I went, well, I am now.
And at that moment, I'm pulling into
No, you weren't there yet. No, you were still at work.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
You come home soon though.
Okay.
the Mandela effect is kicking in.
I will.
We get this phone call, and she says, I hope you're sitting down. And I say, okay, well, I am now. And she says, there's a little boy, and he's legally free for adoption.
Wow.
And I was wondering if you and Steve would be interested. And like, I just melted. I was just like, this is my son. And she said, do you want to know his name? And I said, yeah. And she said, his name is Jericho.
Wow.
And then I said, well, the answer is yes, but I'm going to need to talk to Steve. And I'm like looking at the clock, and it's 2:00, and he works till 7 p.m. So I'm like, it's going to be 5 more hours before he comes home. And so I tell her, like, I'm going to have to call you back. And she's like, yeah, of course. And then I hang up with her, and right then the garage door opens. And Steve had came home early that day and surprised me. And I knew like that was a moment that could only be orchestrated by God. And so I just wept. I just fell to my knees, and I was just weeping. And Steve opens the door and hears me weeping, and he comes running upstairs.
I literally thought she got a call about, somebody passing away. Like that's how she was like, yeah. And I was like already like, okay, cool. I gotta embrace and step. And
then I said, we just got a call and I think this is our son. Mm-hmm. And I said, can I tell you his name? And I told him. And then what'd you say?
Something about like the walls are falling.
Yeah. Wow. I said his name is Jericho, and Steve said, I can feel the walls falling down.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then I fought it for a minute, and I was like, no. And then she did some convincing.
That's what it was for you as wives.
I was like, I don't know, but she was like saying, we wanted to have a boy. Like, why wait? We wanted, because we were planning on getting back into it, and she's like, why wait? This could be.
And this baby is ready for adoption.
Yeah.
It was the week before his first birthday.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
he really felt like a gift.
So from that call to when you received him, how long was that?
Days.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
How much can change in just a moment?
Yeah.
That was a moment that showed me that God can change any situation in an
Heartbeat.
instant.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's like interesting because, like when you're planning to have a child, or you're you have your 9 months to figure out like what's next. We had like 9 days.
Yeah.
And it's like we figured it out. So like it's just a little bit encouraging to anybody else who like just even thinking about this, like how am I going to get this and that, like it happens.
Well, it's it's like that saying, like God doesn't call the equipped, he equips the called.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Like, he will make a way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
And then like our community comes together, like people who had boys who were giving us clothes.
Yeah.
Like we had everything we needed,
In hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd love for you to take us back to the beginning of our conversation and kind of weave in, you guys had a journey through your life in the church and here in Las Vegas, and it was kind of, running alongside all of this. Tell me about what that was like and how your faith and your church journey, integrated into this parenting journey.
I think that we wouldn't have been able to do what we did with the foster care system without having our faith and without having our community. I can't say enough about how important small groups are, because it's so true that like church happens on Sunday, but life happens every day of the week. And so to have, a small group and to have those people that you can call on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, every other day of the week. Yeah.
Any time of the night.
I mean, we wouldn't have got through it without that community. Yeah. And then even more so when you find community that understands the foster care system, because not everyone can relate to like,
it's
getting a phone call and losing your kid overnight,
Yeah.
So, I mean, we really had to learn that even though we don't have any family in Vegas, like we can't do this alone.
Yeah. You have chosen family.
Yeah, we have chosen family. Yeah, absolutely.
I think since we've been out here, like she's been really good at like connecting and like keeping relationships, where for me it was like it was hard. I've had a lot of trust issues with friends out here. And, speaking about church, we'll talk about church here a little bit, is like we were going to one church, then we transitioned to help launch a Hillsong out here. And a lot of those relationships were gone because we didn't serve the same God in the same building anymore. And for me, it was like, that was a hard season for me. Where I felt like I had a trust with someone, and then because I wasn't going there anymore, they didn't have time for me. And then we made had some relationships in the Hillsong church, and it was, for me, it was just like it was a weird transition and weird season, because we served and had a launch, and it was like a lot more serving than receiving, and we went into that church as I felt like as an outsider, because it was originally a different church that transitioned into it, so the relationships were just it was it was I don't want to say weird, but it was
awkward,
a bit weird,
at times,
but for me it was just it was enjoyable, but I wasn't feeling fed. And then we got to a point where we're like, we gave everything we needed to give, and they're good, and we left and went back to our original church for a really short period, and then that's when we found City Light. And honestly, like for me here is like it's amazing. You know, the relationships I've built and serving in like his ministry, and just seeing the growth within the church and the growth within all the relationships that we have. And I think this is the best season I've been in as far as friendships and relationships.
Yeah. I mean, you can empathize with that transition of friendships and finding your community, how it's hard. It is hard to take that leap of faith and branch out.
But how nice it is once you've gotten involved in small groups and you've made good friendships and you've gotten out there on the golf course and you know you can hang out with other believers that can be there for you and relate to you and strengthen you and pray for you and all of the things that a good Christian community can do for your life. So
and it's definitely, I think, you know, as new Christians, sometimes we're hesitant to believe that there's a Christian community out there that can, help to make you feel loved. But like it is out there. You do have to, put your foot in the water sometimes. But, there is a community for everybody out there.
Absolutely. Yeah. Life is definitely not meant to be done alone.
No.
Yeah. Especially here in Vegas, I think it's hard because we're such a transient, environment. And then for me too, is like my work where I was at before was like I would be at work by like I would leave at 8:30 and be home by 7:30, and like I had no time. You know, I get home and we would be doing
bedtime routine.
Bath time, and I think this season where I'm in right now is like I have so much flexibility, and we've been having a lot more time together, and we can plan things better, and
how cool is it that in 2026 you can set up a business where you can work from home by flipping on a camera? Can you tell us a little bit about what you're doing today, Steve, and the flexibility that gives your family to be with your kids and all that?
Yeah, it's crazy where I'm at right now. But I started out going backwards a little bit. We've done reselling since we've been together. We love thrifting. We love finding scores. Like diamonds in the rough. And we're like, how is this here? And then I just started getting onto Whatnot. Many years ago, we got a connection through the church. They connected us with somebody who was a wholesaler for designer handbags. So they plugged us in. They got us connected. We did a couple of shows. We started doing pretty well, and then we sort of got out of that. But fast forward to now is I left my previous job and started selling golf polos in front of my fireplace. With like just a basic setup. Like Amazon $40 setup and. With a ring light I had for like 2 years. And I started slinging polos for $13 each, and then leveled up and started doing $20, and then slowly got into golf balls. Went from my fireplace to my living room and just started selling shoes, golf balls, polos. And here I am now, like, I have a shop and 2 people that work for me, and we're selling almost 500 golf clubs a week with golf sets and golf bags and golf balls. And, through the day I get to go meet with so many cool, interesting people that, and checking out their inventory and hearing their stories of what they have. Some of these people I meet are just so cool. They have these stories behind all these golf clubs, and there's such an emotional attachment around some things. So now I can just travel around the city every day and pick up some inventory and come home, and I'm home.
To be with the kids.
Yeah, I get to drop the kids off in the morning. I get to pick them up in the afternoon. We get to go to the pool in the evening, and I'm not rushing to do anything anymore unless it's my night that I'm running. Like she steps in and helps out. But and then there's days where like if I don't want to go on because we want to do something,
plans,
then or if we want to do something, then I go on for more days than I'm scheduled for. But it's just so flexible, and we have a trip planned at the end of the month, and I'm excited for it because I can go get inventory while we're out there, and she gets to work, we get to travel. So anywhere I go, like I can just I can work.
That's awesome.
That's really cool. And so who's more likely to pick up a golf golf club, Jericho or Audrey?
Actually, Audrey.
Yeah?
Yeah, we got in both sets, but Audrey's been to the range with me.
Yeah, Jericho's still a little small.
Yeah.
Throwing the golf club.
Yeah.
He's so cute.
Yeah. And then she came. We played 9 holes on last Friday. She just came for the ride,
Awesome. Yeah, I love that.
it was cool. She was more interested in the sand traps and collecting all the golf tees on the tee boxes. So she came home with like treasures. She called
so
it.
cute. Oh, I love
So.
Well, I think for our audience, 2 questions. Number 1, where can they watch your show? How can they find you on Whatnot?
My name on Whatnot is The Vault Vegas.
The Vault Vegas.
The Vault Vegas. This is exactly how I look when I'm on there. You know, I'm the best dressed guy on Whatnot.
The cool kids.
Yeah, they're cool kids. My gimmick on there is I don't call it cheesy, but it's fun. You know, I'm from Jersey. We live in Vegas, so I put this like mob golf ball, you know, thing on. So I go on to like last night I went on with a suit, and my thing is these yellow glasses I've been wearing every single show.
I love it.
I go on now. My
Vibe.
schedules are Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday from 9:30 until midnight, and every single show is different. All
That's
the
so
inventory
fun.
is different.
Occasionally do Yahweh Golf Club drops.
I do drops. I do, yeah. So I felt a tug from God again, saying like, you know, you need to get back into this. And for me, I thought it was more about business, you know, and it has to be part of it.
Yeah.
But the reason why I have a golf brand called Yahweh Golf Club is I want people to start talking about God on the golf course. And because in that environment, like it's crazy. I've seen crazy stuff on the golf course, you know, and
that's a long time to be with somebody and not talk about God.
Yeah.
5 hours.
Yeah. and you know, I've had hats and polos and different sayings and all these cool stuff. And it's all meant to like have a conversation, start a conversation. You know, just the other day I had a hat on and it said, "For God so loved the world." And it was for like a golf for. And a guy came up to me and started talking to me about it. And he's like, I wasn't sure if that was like, I don't know what it meant. And I'm like, oh, no. And then we started talking about it. And then he invited me to be in a small group for his church.
Oh, that's cool.
But yeah, it's just all about conversation starters and getting people to question what it is. And then like you can
start the conversation.
Yeah. And bring them, I don't know if you could bring them into God, or for me, I invited people to church all the time. And, what's cool about my show is I only play worship music.
Oh, cool.
And many times I've shared my testimony. I'm very vulnerable. I've opened up and shared, you know, I've even cried on my show. And but we pray for people. You know, people come on there and
that's so cool.
It's just it's a good experience. And like I keep my show clean. You know, like I ask
kids
people,
can watch it.
Yeah, you know, and it's fun. And I love sharing like what people are asking me about, like what music is playing. So like I like literally take my tablet out and like this is it. You got to you know, because it's I love Christian music, but some of it is like a little low pace, low tempo.
Yeah, there's something for everyone.
Yeah, and then this one just like the same songs, but just like EDM mix, you know. So it's a good vibe.
I love it.
That's awesome. Well, I pray that God continues to pour blessing over your business, over your beautiful family, and I think. Aside from finding you on Whatnot, I think for families that might feel called to get into the foster system, and how do they do that? How do you start that process?
I guess depending on what state you're in, but the first thing you do is go onto the state website, and there's an interest link, and you can just click that you're interested, and somebody will reach out to you and give you more information. There's so many different avenues that you can serve the foster community. You don't have to, be a foster parent. You could be a CASA. You could just, sign up to support foster families, be a volunteer, be a big brother, big sister. There's so many different ways. But the first thing you would do is click the interest link on the website. So that way somebody can get in touch with you and kind of figure out what would be the best way to serve. Yeah.
Great. And
I want to ask one question to you guys if you could give something that could bring more peace to people's homes. Can be something small, can be something big, but each of you, what would you recommend? It doesn't have to be.
Peace in what way?
Like just a feeling of peace to people's homes, whether or not they have kids or not, just a thing that you do that helps to bring more peace to your life. Because that's ultimately what we're trying to,
Yeah.
preach and teach about, is bringing God to the center of the home to bring more peace.
I think that one thing you can do, even if you don't have kids, is we always have worship music on at our house. I feel like that really sets the tone for us. And then with having kids, I think one thing that we do that I've really enjoyed and I've found it to bring peace to our home is that we have dinner together every single night.
Yep.
I love that.
And we pray together as a family before dinner, and we try to get the kids involved too.
Yeah, Jericho.
So Jericho's praying for us.
That's all he says. Gotta pray. Gotta pray.
Yeah, and if you don't pray, he'll remind you.
Yeah, and then after we pray, he'll ask you to pray again.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
That's great. Well, one of the rhythms that we do in our family is our faith-filled family meeting, and it really kind of gives just a normal rhythm for our family. Every week we do this meeting usually on Saturdays or Sundays, and it reminds our kids that prayer is important. We open up in prayer and everything. So for our audience, we have a faith-filled family meeting guide that you can find on ourhouse.faith. We'll put a QR code if you want to download that, but it's just a gift that we give to our audience.
The family dinners, that's the real MVP of a household. The kids will. So many studies have shown that when you have family dinners consistently, that it drops anxiety, depression. Like, it's just such a benefit. So I really like that. And the worship music.
And we're blessed to do it because, like, in the past, like,
with you working late,
until 7:30, 8 o'clock.
It was impossible.
It was me on the struggle bus and the kids by myself.
Get them in bed.
Well, our time has flown by. It's been a pleasure talking with you guys. What a powerful testimony, inspired by you. And
it's been an honor to be here.
And your kids are just awesome.
Yeah.
They're the reflection of the light that you guys bring into the world.
Thank you.
You're a blessing to us and our lives, and we pray that this podcast reaches a lot of families and inspires them. So,
well, as for our house, we'll serve the Lord, and we pray you will too.
We'll see you guys next time.